moving on to our first session and to shortly bring out our first guest. As I mentioned, this is an industry we can see you're ready for change and in the process of doing it. And we wanted to start with someone from a company which is very much in the midst of making some of these important transformations. At Nissan, we're going to talk about it. There's important data transformations in terms of the supply chain. There's some exciting projects in network capacity optimization, digitalisation, really cool stuff which is happening, not just being talked about. And our first guest is playing a really key role in that, not only leading finished vehicle logistics in North America, but also taking a key lead in the data transformation and digitalisation with implications across the supply chain, not just finished vehicle logistics, also looking upstream. He joined Nissan in 2010, has worked in various roles in purchasing and logistics, and before that was also at Dell and FedEx. I'm so pleased to welcome our first guest, Steve Jernigan, Director of Finished Vehicle Logistics, Nissan North America. Hey. Good morning. Have a seat.
Oh, thank you. I tell you, I'm a little out of routine being here in person. It's completely different. I think last time we did the online session, I had my jacket on and shorts and flip-flops. So I thought about wearing that today just to be comfortable, but it's definitely great to be here and see everyone, so many friends and colleagues back in person. It's been fantastic. And everybody looks much younger than they did 2 years ago. So.
What a charmer. I should have let you wear your shorts and flip-flops this morning. When he came down, I said, well, Steve, I think they're going to see us as well this time. So. Anyway, Steve, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to have a Q&A fireside chat for the next 30, 40 minutes or so, but we want to get the audience involved as well. So when you want to ask a question, put your hand up and we'll address it. We also have some COVID protocols in terms of making sure the microphone is wiped down and things like that, but we want to bring you in as much as we can. Steve, let's start kind of talking about some of those topics that I mentioned with everyone is living to right now, with the supply chain crisis, so to speak, which is hitting the industry, and Nissan, of course, amongst those, with shutting plants, having low inventory. How would you assess the situation right now in Q4 compared to where we were when we were speaking virtually, for example, just a couple of months ago, and as we sort of look into 2022?
As the consistent theme, it continues to change, right? I think, if we go back 6 months ago, we felt that August, September would be kind of the uptick, right? We'd start seeing more production and consistency coming out of the auto manufacturers. Unfortunately, we didn't know about the spike in COVID, right? So that hit us again at the end of summer, beginning of fall, and I think September looked like our low point, at least at Nissan, and it was a very tough 2 months. I can tell you October, we did see increased production, right? In November so far, we've seen increased production, and November looks to be much higher than it did in August, September, and the same for December. One of the things we are seeing that is we're getting a little more visibility from some of our suppliers that we work day to day. I know it sounds frustrating and crazy, but it was changing almost daily, right? We were going to get a forecast of 1,500 parts and 100 shows up. So there is some stability coming back. We can see weeks now, not just days, and we're starting to move into hopefully even next week knowing what we're going to do for December. So I think Q4 will be up, right? It's not going to be maximum capacity. If you look at most plants, if you go back 3 or 4 months ago, they were double digits plants not producing cars. If you look right now, there's only a few, if any. They're all at some capacity. So I think Q4 will continue to be an increase.
I'm sure what everyone wants to know is probably the answer you or anyone can answer, which is, when is it going to end? When does it get better? But I guess my question actually is, what are you saying to your partners who are asking this information, right? I mean, were your forecasts perhaps not as reliable as we want them to be? So how are you working with your partners despite that inevitable lack of visibility on what's happening in beyond weeks?
So I know everybody came today because I was going to tell you the exact date. We're going to be back up 100%, but unfortunately I can't do that. It's been a challenge. I think you'll talk to many of our partners in here, right? We've said many times production's coming back, and there's uncontrollables, right? I can't help the last COVID spike, right, or the fire that caught on the chip factory a year ago. I mean, those are things that are just uncontrollable, and I think you've heard it a few times, and I think we're at a point right now where we've talked about it, and you're still a little optimistic or negative about will really come. And I think we're going to see that the volume's coming back, and I don't think we're ready from a capacity standpoint. I am seeing some constraints in areas now, even in October, where we couldn't get the right equipment with the right lift where we needed. So if the volume is coming back up, I just can't tell you it's going to be at full capacity, right? It'll continue to be at some level. We'll have plants running. There may be certain models running more than others, or modified shifts, things like that. But the plants will run what we see right now through Q4.
Do you see we talk a lot about a supply chain crisis and shortages. From what you're saying, we're not quite ready. Are we at risk of, not to be too dramatic, but are we at risk of a vehicle logistics crisis when the volumes really come back?
I think the focus will shift from inbound to outbound, right? I've been saying that for 2 months. Eventually the containers will get unloaded, the parts are sitting around, and when we have the parts, we'll build the cars. The whiplash into the outbound is going to be where we're hit next. I think, I've heard some stats around haulaway carriers that, they've lost 25 to 30% of their drivers at some locations, and, it's already a constrained industry, and really COVID pushed that forward even more. So I think, we are going to struggle, and I know we're having a lot of conversations on what can we do, and we're continuing to try to focus on it. But I do think we'll see really tight capacity. You're coming into an end of fiscal year for some OEMs, right? And you've also got some bubbles of inventory that are waiting on parts that at some point will get released. So I expect to see a large bubble.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to come on to some of the things maybe we as an industry can do to try to get ahead of that whiplash. But as you mentioned it, the issue at the moment, at least the core issue, is upstream in the inbound side and in the supply chain side. What are you doing to kind of try to improve your visibility upstream? Because we can go into the details. It's not just chips, as we know. It's many, many aspects which are coming into it.
So, when we started with the chip crisis, we kind of, took kind of a global approach to a control tower where we're actually, allocating our chips based on regions, right? So, we do allocations. The problem in the past was, right, some of those allocations didn't come as expected, right? The volume wasn't what we were told. We are seeing that stabilize a little bit, and we're continuing to work closely with our suppliers to try to understand, what are their capacities. We're in constant communication, not only, the chips, but other suppliers as well. With labor shortages that are impacting all of us, and we see some local suppliers, right, that can't run a third shift, right, because they don't have enough people. So there's impact across the supply base. So constant communication. I think we've redone the car flow about every other day for the full year, and it continues to change. But we continue to talk with our partners, right? I'm constantly giving them volume, looking at our minor model holds, new model holds, what's coming in, up front. Obviously, like everything, the plan continues to change, but we're constantly communicating, and although it's not perfect, we are sharing what we see.
What would you kind of identify as the most important mitigation strategies from an outbound point of view in this current situation?
I think, for us, I've heard talk about visibility, right? We're not as far along as some of the other OEMs, but it's definitely a huge, tool for us in the future, right? We're working on developing better visibility end to end that allow us to really make decisions and understand, where our inventories are, where our exceptions are. So I think, for us, technology and visibility is a huge investment that we're working on. It's going to be a huge piece of what we do next. With our carriers looking for, route optimizations, right? Where do you have opportunity? Where do you need me to hopefully give you some work that can get you back and turn a load again? We're also looking at alternative equipment, right? So we're looking at wedge trucks. It's in certain locations it may make sense, right? Depending on the market, but it gives us additional capacity that we don't have right now. So, looking at different options, different technologies, and depending on how the volume goes, even looking at potential driveaways and locations if we have to.
So when we talk of vehicle logistics, we usually come down to core KPIs: cost, quality, on-time delivery, etc. Does the balance of these KPIs have to shift a little bit in these moments where we have to pay more to get more kind of situation?
So obviously our key KPIs are really core to our customer and our brand. So we're never going to sacrifice quality, right? It needs to be perfect. We are continuing to invest, right? We've talked about end-to-end visibility, right? That is investments, and it's going to take investments to give that type of interactive visibility to our dealers and our customers. So we will invest there. And yes, I mean, we are making decisions. If we don't have the right mix or the right loads, we're making decisions to move things at a different rate. So, the focus for my team every day is move every unit as quickly as we can.
And I think the message with you, if I read it correctly, open to new things now, whether it's the different types of equipment, using drivers directly. So I think that is an important message to anybody here, really, in terms of working through this phase. One of the things we obviously see with dealer inventory so low, the ordering is into the pipeline now. I mean, for customers, many often ordering, whether it's in transit or not, or in factory or overseas. How would you describe Nissan's ability right now to really track and kind of validate those upstream vehicles that are being sold into the pipeline?
You made it sound really cool earlier with technology and really innovative, and we want to be there. I think I'd say we're behind some, right? We've got great ambitions. I think right now our visibility is not really real time or very interactive. I think we want to get to a point where we can give precise ETAs, right? I mean, I think that makes a difference. As you talked about inventory in the pipelines. I mean, we're all consumers, right? If a dealer or customer is waiting on a car and you tell them it's going to be here Saturday, they hear nothing and it shows up Tuesday, you've just impacted that sale. So now we see our transportation's impacting potentially our brand, right? That experience of shipping, which they're all waiting on now, so they're so entangled into that every move, we could impact our customer moving forward. So shipping's getting a lot more visibility, and really precise ETAs is where we have to go. I mean, I can give you examples. I mean, I've seen where we've updated ETAs with a dealership 15 to 20 times. It's just absolutely insane.
For one vehicle?
Yes.
So that, maybe not quite to the Amazon level yet, but...
got a ways to go.
Okay, but I mean, I think that indicates to me the advantage that vehicle logistics can play. I mean, would you say that if it could prevent a sale at the moment effectively if it's not working the way it should?
Oh, most definitely. I think I'm sure all of our partners are hearing. We often talk about every unit not delivered is lost sale right now. If it's on the lot, it's going to move. So any available unit, it needs to move, right, from production to dealer as quickly as possible. So not getting it there, you're losing a potential sale. Now, as we've talked about with visibility, right, we're not as far upstream as we like to be, but as we get better with visibility, what we hope to happen is, and I'm sure it's happening now, is somebody's at a dealer and they're looking for a car, and they can look into our visibility and see that there's a blue Pathfinder in California and it'll be here in 2 days. Maybe they put a deposit and wait, right? So unfortunately, we don't have that type of visibility and confidence right now in our system to where I think dealers are probably confident to do that with their customers, but it definitely can be a game changer moving forward.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. On the inventory side, and as you mentioned, okay, if that can be a game changer, let's look a little bit beyond the immediacy of 20-day supply or whatever we're dealing with at a national level. Where do you see it in a few years? I mean, in terms of where we used to have 90-day supply. I mean, do you have a sense in Nissan, has it been discussed, of what the magic point might be?
Yeah, I think most OEMs are probably in the same boat. I think the inventory levels we saw 5-6 years ago. I think none of us want to get back to those levels, right? I think there's a lot of inefficiencies, right, and there's a lot of inventory sitting all over the U.S., right, whether it's in off-sites or dealer lots overflowing into mall parking lots. So I think we realize there's also a good balance in inventory, and really inventory impacts cash flow and profit for the OEM, and we've seen also the return on sales and profit for the dealership be better. So really agile management of inventory I think is where we want to be, and like you said, days of supply depending on the model, we'll be sure to manage it very closely and balance that. I don't foresee us going back into the days of inventory sitting just everywhere.
So I think that transformation in the vehicle logistics side, in terms of having that visibility and being able to really deliver an effective ETA quite in advance, will remain quite important in this next stage.
Yes, I mean, most definitely. I think as consumers continue to change too, right? And Nissan just launched this year their at-home buying experience, right? So it works with our dealers, but they're going to be more involved in the interaction than ever before. So, visibility is going to be needed, and with inventory, right? We talked about models and trims, and consumers are becoming more technology-based, right? So they may be looking for specific things, and being able to see that in the pipeline and sell it up front will be a huge advantage for any OEM.
And this program you mentioned, this is an online ordering opportunity or an alternative delivery?
Nissan at Home. Actually, I think I just got an award this year, and it did launch. So you can have a full buying experience, driving experience, everything at home through Nissan and our dealerships. So so far it's been received well.
And does it at this stage? Does it involve, let's say, changes in the vehicle logistics side? And if not yet, might it, will it in the future?
Not so much changes. I think what it is driving, though, is what we've talked about, right? I mean, you've got to have precision delivery, right? I mean, that's, you got to deliver when you say you do, right? Because you're going to impact, like I said, that customer and our brand. So visibility, having that visibility where the unit is, how it's progressing, updates and communication to your prospective buyer, right? All that has to be in place to make sure that it's delivered, on time and the experience as well.
Mm-hmm. Shifting gears slightly, so we talk a lot, 10 years ago or 12 years ago we had the Great Recession. Now we talk about the Great Resignation. We know there's truck driver shortages, but we see it across the economy right now. People are leaving jobs they don't want, finding jobs they want. So in terms of vehicle logistics, do you see an impact already? Is it changing anything about the way you work with your team and also with your partners?
Yeah, most definitely. Obviously we're not immune to the labor issues as well, right? The OEMs are struggling on retention as well as everyone else in this room, I'm sure. We continue to see challenges like we've talked about in Holloway, right? When you talk about some of the driver shortages, as well as within our 3PLs and manufacturers, right? I mean, we've talked about suppliers, right? I may have chips, but I may not be able to get door panels because that shift didn't run last night. So you're working in the weekends to make that up. So there's huge impact right now with the labor shortage across the industry, and there are areas like manufacturing where we're doing things like auto picks and trying to improve some of the gaps we have, but it's a huge problem, and it's going to probably be around for the next several months, if not more. We don't know, right, what COVID's going to do. Hopefully it continues in the downward cycle, as well as vaccine mandates. I don't know how they play into railroads and things like that, and does it reduce capacity as well? So still a lot of unknowns, and I think labor are going to be our biggest challenge.
I think it's a topic we're going to talk a lot about with the overall labor and driver issue. Clearly, we're going to talk about a lot the next 2 days. So, but when we spoke in June, we were already speaking then about some new approaches that Nissan is taking, I think, or ways, whether it's routing aspects. So we can talk a little bit about what you're doing in Nissan to sort of to address the truck driver issue and perhaps even make it more attractive for drivers hauling for you.
I mean, we're looking for solutions constantly, right? Talking with our partners, we were working with, some partners like universities, right? So and we're using Georgia Tech with one of our partners, looking at, trying to see if we can set up maybe slip seats or kind of relay points within our network that would allow, a Holloway driver to get home maybe every night or every other night. We've done a few routes. It's been successful. I think if I talk to a lot of our partners, one of the challenges I hear is, Amazon, Walmart, they're taking our drivers, they're home every night, right? So, my challenge is, well, how do we improve that for our Holloway carriers, right? So, I don't know how we expand that, right? And how do we figure it out, right? Inbound parts supplies always runs heavy now, kind of a terminal type, relay type systems. But somehow we have to figure it out to maintain the drivers. So I think, looking at solutions like that, talking to about, if you look at Carvana and others, right, what are they doing? Benchmarking, right, from, vacations and salaries and benefits. And so they're taking a different approach, right? So we're benchmarking, we're doing all these activities trying to help our partners find solutions. I mean, obviously we haven't solved it, but we're definitely looking to improve it.
One of the other things we spoke about a few months back during our virtual event was this data transformation that's going on at Nissan in terms of moving to the cloud. And this is, I think, a key area of responsibility for you. So can you, again, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing through this initiative and others to address the visibility and move to a more predictive models in terms of your planning?
Yeah, so obviously one piece of my team is transformation at Nissan, and we've really just moved into our cloud environment and working on moving away from access and other databases into web-based, access points, and moving our data over slowly, right? So we started that journey. We are seeing some benefits, right? I mean, we've got a tremendous amount of data now within our cloud environment that we're able to look at and utilize. We still have a tremendous amount to move in, but we are using that data right now. Working on some projects to get better visibility into our tier N parts networks, to understand impacts, and hopefully be able to communicate and understand impacts much earlier than we have currently, right? I think having that visibility may not have changed the fire that happened at one of the chip factories, but definitely would have given us much more visibility into alternative solutions and start to move. So right now, that's one of the key projects we're working on with our data and some of our partners to hopefully to build that modeling.
And what would your vision for how that will impact and affect outbound as well? I mean, clearly there with the tier N, it gives you that visibility, able to react. Are there other areas that you see that this will really have an impact for outbound logistics?
Oh yeah, a tremendous amount. Think about, we're always looking to optimize and improve our network, right, to meet customer needs. So, right now that's done across Excel sheets and different desktops, and having the data and being able to really model and use that data to make fast decisions that are accurate, that can change it overnight, right? We'll be able to optimize and make moves that may have taken my team 3 months to study. We can start doing those things in weeks.
Yeah. If anybody would like to ask a question, by the way, please put your hand up, and we'll make sure to get a mic to you. So at any point, just get a hand up. But I have plenty more, so you won't get out of here early, I'm afraid. We often, I kind of referred to it in the opening as well. We tend to think of the outbound chain as perhaps digitalizing processes somewhat slower. You just referred a lot to using Excel and other tools which are quite sort of common. Where do you see, the biggest opportunity to do, let's say, quickly, a sort of like low-hanging fruit, whether it's in yard management, damage, load planning? I mean, the transformation you're talking about is perhaps quite multifaceted. Yeah. But where are some low-hanging fruit?
Various areas. I mean, I'll just give you a real life example for me and Nissan is we've got several new models launching this year, and our systems don't talk, right? I think that's the problem with most of us is we got antiquated systems, and there are many of them. So we see a spike in dealer delivery on damage on some units, and we don't find that out for weeks, maybe even a month, depending on at what level the dealers start to make noise, right? Because it goes through a separate system, a separate insurance provider. It's just a slow process. So, I may have 20, 30, next thing 100 dealers starting to complain about damage when I should have had visibility up front. So as we get the data, into one location, I can start to see trends on models, right? I can run it and understand, what model was it, what color was it, what trim level was it, where was it loaded on the truck, where was it going? And you can start to analyze and hopefully see, the issue and put a solution in before you have such a large-scale impact. So that's just one area. Another example would be in, our production manufacturing. We're looking at, I call it smart scheduling, but how can we better schedule our production of our vehicles to help optimize our outbound flow? So, we're looking at, can we, build in batches of zip codes or models, or how would it optimize our rail and our haulaway network? So we have started that project and working on it, and actually have made a change with one of our export markets that'll start next April to optimize the transit. So it's just endless opportunity I think we'll see over the next several years.
So a couple minutes left. I wanted to raise another topic, which I think is critical to the industry. It will be in the next couple of years, around sustainability, tracking emissions, reducing them to meet targets, and as we see, there'll be stricter targets coming, I think. What do you see as the most important next steps for Nissan from the vehicle logistics side in making it more sustainable?
Obviously, working with our partners, right? I mean, that's absolutely critical to continue to look, what are you doing to drive, carbon neutrality in your business, right? Whether it's through alternative fuels or, more efficient utilization, whatever it may be. The other key piece, obviously for us, is really looking at reducing our mileage, right? If you look at, how many miles we travel, whether it's a part or a vehicle, there's a huge opportunity for us to really focus on reducing that as well to reduce our footprint.
I saw a hand actually just come up. So do we have a microphone that we can shoot over? Whilst the team moves, so right up here in the front. The young man.
I have my hair professionally braided. Hi, Steve. Brian Mason with Pace Automotive. Kind of a question and a follow-up question. What we've seen on the processor side, I'm curious if Nissan is doing this as well across your range of products. We've seen a significant increase in factory standard accessories and factory accessories to drive the profitability of that vehicle up. But one of our challenges is from time to time we run out of those accessories. We can't get them at the ports. And so some of the OEMs are stripping those accessories so we can keep the velocity of the vehicles up. Is Nissan following those practices?
So very similar. You're spot on. Definitely with the limited inventories, we are maximizing our profit per unit. So accessories has been a great opportunity for us to offset some of the volume, and they're heavily pinned, right? And the consumer's buying them. We are working closely though with our processors. We do have processes to delete, accessories that we don't have in stock as long as they can be deleted, right? There are some that are mandatory, or we call above the line. But we do have a process that they actually meet every day and walk through their forecast on inventory and look upstream, and then if we need to, we'll delete accessories to make sure the product's flowing. At the end of the day, we do not want to hold a vehicle up from moving. I mean, that is the bottom line. It needs to move and to get to the dealership. But you're spot on from an accessories content. We are doing the same thing.
So Steve, you mentioned earlier that there is likely to be a bullwhip on the outbound side, right? As production comes back up and there's a rush to meet the pent-up demand. What do you want to say to your partners, suppliers here in the room about how we do everything we can to mitigate that? What can we be doing now? And what are we doing now?
It's funny you say that. I've had a lot of conversations over the last 8 weeks, right? Talking with our partner providers, and I've heard the message clearly from every one of them as well. Is we need forecasts. We need better forecasts. We need to understand what's coming so we can plan. And I completely agree with that. Unfortunately, our forecasts have been restricted based on constraints I just couldn't control, right? And I know you've heard many times, this volume's coming, or we're going to release this model today, and it doesn't happen. So I can tell you though that the volume is coming back, right? And I think we've talked about, how do we get ready for it? What are the, do we need to use wedge trucks? What do we need to do from a driver standpoint? I know different partners are doing different things. I've had a lot of conversations benchmarking, what one provider may be doing versus another, right? And there's not one magic bullet, that's going to fix everything. I think it's going to be a host of different actions, and the visibility and forecasting is going to get better. We're going to have much better pipeline information, and then we'll move vehicles. So we've got to get the drivers back in the market and keep working on the solutions, whether it's relays, pay, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm. So I can maybe take one last audience question if there is one. Yeah, right over here in the corner, please. A young woman. Yeah, maybe just, if you could just say your name and company, please, as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angela Kalanowska, and I guess my question is regarding the spike of PPOs. Currently, with reduction of volume rate, you see increase in just accessorization by the dealers. So when the volumes start picking up and you're starting to getting slammed, do you see any concerns with slower production in terms of the PPO content remaining really high still, but now you're getting 3 times the volume?
So, I think, we'll definitely do what we're doing now, managing it, right? I think we'd like to keep them as pinned as high as we can, but we will make decisions to delete to keep product moving. Our processors, not immune to labor shortages, right? And I can tell you, in one of our locations, we've got much more volume we can handle right now. So they're looking to add a shift to do other things, but we will do the same thing. We won't stop units from moving when we can, right? There are some shortages we can't control that have to be put on before the car can ship, right? So those will sit, but those that we can, we'll continue to lead and move forward.
I think I saw one more. I'll let Thomas ask the last question from the audience side, just right in the back. Come on, Nimesh, you can jump over the table if you can't get it. We're talking about dynamic, agile vehicle logistics. I want to see it from us too.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Tomasz Lis. I work for Amperts. My question is, you have a relatively fixed base of suppliers in your logistic chain. How do you benchmark that in situations that require a bit different approach, or do you have a process in place adjusted to the new conditions, or how do you?
So, fortunately, we do have, some industry, like AIG and others that we do able to benchmark and share information. And then, with our partners, obviously, we sit down and have reviews every quarter and talk about business and look for opportunities as well as what they're doing in their industry. So various forums and benchmarks, as well as some of the industry groups that we're a part of as well.
So the last question, Steve, what the hell is normal going to look like for the finished vehicle logistics in the 2020s? Okay, coming out slightly, hopefully, from the crisis phase of now. What's your ideal for normal?
So I've been working in transportation manufacturing. I know I look like I'm 21, but at least for about 30 years now. But I don't know if there is a normal, right? Normal's being, I think you used the word agile, right? There's always going to be, a recession, a war, 9/11. There's going to be some next obstacle that a supply chain's got to step up and find a solution for, right? And Holloway's been around for decades among decades, and have found solution time after time as the market changes. And I think it'll happen now, right? So technologies are coming along, right? Visibility and other technologies in the future with autonomous and EV. Those will get integrated into the outbound network and supply chain. So, technology is going to be a huge piece of it. Visibility and interaction with your end customer is going to be absolutely essential. And then, continue to have the agile and flexibility that we've always had, right? And find solutions. But I think that's what we'll continue to do. Normal is going to be normal. There's always going to be a problem. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, total. It's the never normal, as we coming to call it. Steve, I think that's a focus on agility is a great way to kind of close this. I want to thank you for this great opening and for your answering all of our questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
American automotive industry has always been home to our nation's top innovators. Embodying this spirit, Jack Cooper Transport has played a critical role in the American automotive story since 1928. From receiving and managing cars off the assembly line to loading and delivering newly manufactured vehicles to dealerships, Jack Cooper provides a necessary part of the new vehicle manufacturing process, and it is well positioned to continue to grow and thrive for the next 100 years.